Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to move the report of the Senate Finance Committee on the medium-term debt management strategy for the year 2025. Mr. Speaker, the Senate adopts this report as contained herein, and as we do so, Mr. Speaker, it's good for us to bring it to the attention of the House that the medium-term debt management strategy is pursuant to standing order, pursuant to Section 33 of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 41 2A. The MTDS provides a framework for informed decision-making on public borrowing and debt management. It gives and guides the national government in structuring the debt portfolio to minimize costs and risks while ensuring sustainability and supporting the government of the domestic debt market. Mr. Speaker, the MTDS was tabled in Parliament on 13th of February 2025 and subsequently committed to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget for consideration. Its submission aligns with Section 331 of the Public Finance Act 2012, which mandates the Cabinet Secretary responsible for finance to submit to Parliament a statement outlining the national government's debt management strategy. It provides information on the following key elements. 1, the stock of public debt as at the date of tabling of the statement. 2, the sources of the loans required by the national government and the nature of the guarantees issued by the national government. And 3, the principal risks associated with these loans and guarantees. Not to mention, Mr. Speaker, number 4, the assumption underpinning the debt management strategy, and of course, an analysis of the sustainability of both actual and potential debt, public debt. The resolution of the House on the report of the medium-term debt management strategy shall serve as a foundation for determining the appropriate limits on proposed domestic and external borrowing. Additionally, it shall inform the approval of the budget policy statement report. Mr. Speaker, the 2025 MTDS outlines the following strategy. A gross financing ratio of 25 to 75 for external and domestic borrowing respectively, and 2, a net financing strategy of 35 to 65 for external and domestic finance respectively. Mr. Speaker, this underscores the continued reliance on domestic market as the primary source of financing for fiscal deficits over the medium term. As at the end of January 2025, the total stock of public and publicly guaranteed debt stood at 11.02 trillion shillings, equivalent, Mr. Speaker, to 65.7% of the GDP, up from 10.58 trillion, which was equivalent to the same 65.7% of the GDP in June 2024. This figure is projected to rise further to 13 trillion by June 2027. Consequently, debt servicing costs are expected to increase to 1.97 trillion by June 2025 and further to 2.4 trillion by June 2027. Additionally, debt service payments, including interest and redemption payments, are projected to remain elevated, averaging 60% of the total income. This underscores the tightening fiscal space and highlights the urgent need for a robust debt management strategy aimed at minimizing costs and mitigating the risk associated with high debt distress levels. Mr. Speaker, in reviewing the 2025 MTDS, my committee engaged with the key stakeholders, including the Commission on Revenue Allocation, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, the Council of Governors, the County Assemblies Forum, Budgeti Hub, the Institute of Public Finance, the Institute of Social Accountability, Office of the Auditor General, Okoa Uchumi, Mr. Kelvin Ronyo, and the Institute of Economic Affairs. The committee held a total of 10 sittings while processing this MTDS. Additionally, in adherence to Article 201A of the Constitution, the Senate conducted public participation on the 2025 MTDS through a call for submission of memoranda. Mr. Speaker, sir, arising from these consultative engagements, the committee made several recommendations which included the following. 1, noting that as of June 2024, Kenya's public debt stood at 10.58 trillion, equivalent to 63% in present value. Terms exceeding Public Finance Management Act frameworks of PV to GDP ratio of 55% by 8% points, the National Treasury should submit quarterly reports to Parliament detailing the progress made towards compliance with the set threshold as contained in the Public Finance Management Act. 2, that the National Treasury, Central Bank of Kenya, and Control of Budget should fully automate the withdrawal of debt service payments from the Consolidated Fund by 31st May 2025. And that additionally, an interagency report on the implementation status of these recommendations should be submitted to Parliament 15 days after the 31st of May 2025. 3, that to enhance financial controls, improve accuracy and timelines of public debt statistics, and strengthen decision-making for greater transparency and accountability, the National Treasury should integrate the public debt management system with integrated financial management system, IFMIS, by May 31st, 2025, and submit a report to Parliament within 15 days of implementation. 4, that to enhance transparency and accountability in anticipated increase in domestic borrowing, the National Treasury should within 60 days, 1, establish a working committee to develop criteria for assessing the effective utilization of borrowed funds by ministries, departments, and agencies, and establish the Registrar of Government Securities in accordance with Section 55 of the Public Management Finance Act. And that 2, it should ensure that the debt register records comprehensive details on the utilization of borrowed funds, including specific breakdown of projects financed through the proceeds of infrastructure bonds. E, that the National Treasury should establish a multi-agency committee comprising of representatives from the National Treasury, the Central Bank of Kenya, and the Control of Budget to review the public debt procurement process and, Madam Speaker, assess the utilization of borrowed funds. The committee should report to the Senate within 60 days. To mitigate the impact of high debt service costs, the National Treasury should ensure efficient resource utilization, prioritize investments in high-impact sectors, and enhance the timely implementation of projects and programs. Allow me, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, to make a few remarks on the financial recommendations that we made as a committee. That the fiscal deficit target for the medium term is approved and set at 4.6% of the GDP for the financial year 2025-2026, and at 3.8% of the GDP for the financial year 2026-2027, and at 3.5% of the GDP for the financial year 2027-2028, in line with the fiscal consolidation path, and that the country's borrowing strategy is approved at 35% for the net external borrowing and 65% for the net domestic borrowing, as contained in the 2025 midterm debt management strategy. Finally, Madam Speaker, I'd like to appreciate stakeholders who appreciated our work and appeared before the committee or submitted memoranda on the 2025 MTDS, and I also appreciate members of the committee on finance and budget for their commitment and dedication to complete the task. I also wish to appreciate the Office of the Speaker and the Office of the Clerk for facilitating the committee in executing its mandate. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I request senators to approve the committee's report on this 2025 MTDS, and before I invite to be seconded, I want to appreciate the arrival of the leader of the youth in the Senate, the distinguished senator from Siaya, Dr. Oburu Dinga, aged 84 years old. Welcome to this great meeting. And also, Madam Speaker, I want to welcome back after a 2-week hiatus from the Senate, the leader of the majority. I don't know whether he was reading for a master's at Strathmore College or he was reading for a PhD. I encourage you, if you don't have a PhD, you quickly do so, because some of us who are properly educated, we have decided to profile those who don't have PhDs. Madam Speaker, I wish to invite the senator for Nairobi nominated, Senator Tabitha Maureen Mutinda, to second this.
Thank you, Senator, but just hold on, Senator Tabitha. And I don't know whether you have now provided all of us who have not achieved the PhD. We hope not, but